TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Israel commends Slovenia for designating Hezbollah as a terrorist organization. Turkey urges the European Union to act as an honest mediator in all that pertains to its eastern Mediterranean dispute with Greece. Syria's newly appointed Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad makes his first official trip to the Islamic Republic of Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hosted his Slovenian counterpart Janez Janša at his office in Jerusalem, during which the two leaders signed an agreement on innovation to deepen cooperation between Jerusalem and Ljubljana. In joint remarks to the press, the Slovenian premier sought to emphasize his country's unwavering support for the Jewish state, which, according to Janša, serves as a cornerstone of peace in the Middle East in particular and the world in general.
Slovenia is also among those European countries which try to see the situation in the Middle East as it is, not as it is shown many times. So we are realists. We know the real role of Israel here, the importance of Israel for the world peace and for the peace in the region. And whatever we can do to strengthen this position, we are prepared to do.
Premier Netanyahu, for his part, highlighted the paradigm shift that occurred throughout the Middle East since the signing of the U.S.-mediated Abraham Accords, and asked Prime Minister Janša to convey this new reality to Europe's halls of power during Slovenia's expected presidency of the European Council between July and December of 2021.
We've just signed the Abraham Accords, and country after country is joining the peace agreement that we have and the normalization agreements that we have with the United Arab Emirates, with Bahrain, with Sudan. Others are coming in. And this is a new reality, completely different from what is commonly thought of in the foreign ministries and chancelleries of Europe. And some of our European friends already get it. I'm glad that you've always seen it. And I hope that you can facilitate in your role as in the EU presidency to have the EU understand that this is a different world and there are different opportunities, different alliances for the good, for the better.
Netanyahu also thanked Janša for Slovenia's decision to designate Hezbollah as a terrorist organization late last month. In its decision, the government of Slovenia determined that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization that displays the characteristics of an organized crime organization that poses a risk to peace and security and conducts terrorist activities on a global scale. Consequently, Slovenia joins Austria, Germany, Estonia, Britain, and Switzerland, among other European and non-European states, who have recently made similar decisions regarding the Lebanese Iranian proxy Hezbollah. It is interesting to know that while the international community is slowly yet steadily holding Hezbollah accountable for its global terror-related activities, the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, which is mandated under UN Security Council resolutions 425, 426, and 1701, to monitor the cessation of hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah, among other vital activities, has lost a key contributor to performing its mission. After almost a decade-long service with UNIFIL's Maritime Task Force, the Brazilian government decided to end its contribution to the peacekeeping mission.
Eu acho que foi uma contribuição muito significativa, muito importante. O Brasil operou por 10 anos consecutivos aqui na UNIFIL e agora é o momento da retirada, uma decisão que foi bastante pesada para o governo brasileiro, mas ela precisou ser tomada. Nós temos certeza que a LAF Navy aproveitou muito esse ano a operação em conjunto com o navio Capitânia para aumentar as suas capacidades, aumentar a sua competência e chegar mais próximo do estado final desejado dessa missão, que é o Líbano, no futuro assumir plenamente as responsabilidades e os papéis de patrulha das suas águas territoriais.
The departure of the Brazilian frigate and crew effectively leaves UNIFIL's naval component in the hands of Bangladesh, Germany, Greece, Indonesia, and Turkey. While global support in helping the Lebanese armed forces secure their country's territorial integrity persists, deep-rooted corruption and inability to realize much-needed reform in Beirut's governing institutions is evidently challenging international efforts led by France to provide much-needed humanitarian assistance to the people of Lebanon.
Ce soutien de nous tous au peuple libanais est et restera, mais il ne pourra jamais se substituer aux responsabilités qui pèsent de plus en plus lourdement sur les autorités du pays pour que le Liban vive. Cette deuxième conférence, qui va permettre donc de compléter la réponse d'urgence et d'apporter une réponse en matière de relèvement précoce, ne saurait remplacer l'engagement des forces politiques libanaises et des institutions à former le plus rapidement possible un gouvernement et à mettre en œuvre la feuille de route de réforme sans laquelle l'aide économique et structurelle internationale ne pourrait être déclenchée.
President Macron further announced that he plans to visit Lebanon later this month and highlighted that even though Paris will not forgo its demands for reform, it will not abandon the people of Lebanon who are genuinely suffering. Nevertheless, the dire economic situation in Lebanon is raising concerns over the ordinary citizens' capacity to withstand the steep rise of costs and the growing lack of essential commodities.
هلا كتاجر طبيعي المبيعات بدها تخف، بس الكارثة الأكبر على المواطنين، لأنه القدرة الشرائية هي عند العالم والأسعار عم تطلع، وهو شيء طبيعي لأنه الدولار عندنا بالبلد ما بقى ثابت. بقى أكيد في كتير عالم بتتأثر، وفي كتير تجار حتستفيد من هالموضوع. يعني مثل ما شايف هلا في احتكار أصلا بالسوق، في كتير أصناف مفقودة وأسعارها أسعارها أكثر من 3 مرات مضاعفة. يعني بس إنه بالنهاية الشعب اللبناني بده يتأقلم مع هالشيء.
It is important to highlight that Israel is closely monitoring the situation in Lebanon. A senior official explained to TV7 that Lebanon's stability is important for Israel since it naturally impacts the situation on its border. The official, who asked to remain anonymous, further asserted that Hezbollah's unrelenting hold over Lebanon's future, having a sort of veto power in all that relates to the international demand for reform, derives from the fact that it is heavily reliant on the country's corrupt institutions. Turning to Tehran, where Syria's newly appointed Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad met with his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Javad Zarif as part of his first regional trip as the top diplomat of Damascus. According to a statement by the Ayatollah regime's foreign ministry, quote, during their meeting, the two discussed bilateral, regional, and international issues, as well as the joint fight against terrorism. The statement further noted that Zarif emphasized to Mekdad the necessity of vigilance and consultation between Tehran and Damascus due to the recent regional developments and condition. Meanwhile, in related news, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo insisted in an interview by the Wall Street Journal that the Islamic Republic of Iran has never been more isolated.
We have a coalition working the Strait of Hormuz to keep it open and safe, to keep energy flowing across the world. All of those things have been built out over these last 4 years and put Iran in a place that they have never been more isolated. To tell you what decision they'll make, that will be for them to choose. But until such time as they make the decision to behave like a normal nation, it ought to be a case that the entire world, whether that's the United States, Europe, or others, we all have an obligation to make sure that the terror that they have foisted upon the world for these last years since at least 1979 is no longer rewarded with billions of dollars from the United States and Europe. That would be the wrong direction to take. And I hope that the world will see that and continue to put pressure on Iran to do the simple thing of behaving like a normal nation.
The statement by Washington's top diplomat was made amid evident concerns among the closest allies and partners of the United States across the Middle East, who are increasingly wary over a potential dramatic change in U.S. policy vis-à-vis Iran under a projected Biden administration. Turning to Ankara, where Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu urged the European Union to act as an honest mediator and all that pertains to the dispute between Turkey and Greece and the Eastern Mediterranean. Speaking at a joint news conference with his Hungarian counterpart, Peter Szijjártó, Cavusoglu stressed that Ankara expects the EU to act strategically and with good sense.
Avrupa Birliği'nden her zaman stratejik ve aklı selim davranmasını bekliyoruz. Var olan sorunların çözümüne de katkı yapmasını isteriz. Ama bunun için Avrupa Birliği'nin dürüst bir arabulucu rolünü üstlenmesi lazım. Son dönemlerde diplomasiye önemli fırsatlar verdik. Yunanistan diyaloğa yanaşmadı. Bizimle görüşmeye de yanaşmadı. İstikşafi görüşmelere gemi faaliyetlerini sürdürdükçe gitmeyeceklerini söylediler. Bu arada NATO'nun bu ayrıştırıcı toplantılarına da son dönemlerde katılmaz oldular.
The Turkish foreign minister's comments were made ahead of an EU summit that aims to discuss Ankara's activities in the Eastern Mediterranean. Thank you for watching us. As part of TV7 Israel's prayer initiative, I would like to encourage you today to join myself and the team here in Jerusalem to lift up Lebanon in prayer once again for its salvation and peace, alongside prayers for our persecuted brethren throughout the world, in addition to our ongoing prayers, of course, for the peace of Jerusalem, the salvation of Israel, for all those who are impacted by the corona contagion and its numerous ramifications worldwide. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Tov U'Mevorach, and we will see you again tomorrow at the same time.